Hi everyone, I'm Anita Sharma. You're watching AnewZ live from Baku. Here's what's making news right now. South Korea's president declares martial law to remove pro-North Korea forces from the country, and the parliament tries to block it. French government facing a no-confidence vote after the prime minister bypasses parliament to pass the social security budget. It's the second day of UN's COP16 conference in Riyadh. Azerbaijan was elected a member of the COP16 Bureau. Thank you so much for joining us today, everyone. We begin with South Korea's President Yoon Suk-yeol, who declares martial law while parliament moves to block it. Yoon said the decision to enforce martial law was made to remove pro-North Korea forces from the country and to protect the liberal constitutional order. While the military entered parliament, hundreds gathered in front of the assembly, standing against the martial law. The members of parliament from both the majority and opposition voted to block the law, which, if enacted, essentially would have suspended all parliamentary activity. This move comes as Yoon's People Power Party and the Democratic Party continue to disagree over next year's budget bill. Here's what South Korea's president had to say in an unannounced televised address declaring the martial law.
I declare martial law to protect the Free Republic of Korea from the threat of North Korean communist forces, to eradicate the despicable pro-North Korean anti-state forces that are plundering the freedom and happiness of our people, and to protect the free constitutional order. Through this martial law, I will rebuild and protect the Free Republic of Korea, which is falling into the abyss of national ruin. To this end, I will definitely eradicate the anti-state forces who are the main culprit of the country's ruination and conduct vicious activities.
To NATO now, where foreign ministers started their two-day talks in Brussels about the war in Ukraine and the Middle East. Ahead of the meetings, NATO chief Mark Rutte called for increased military aid to strengthen Ukraine's position in potential negotiations with Moscow, stressing that more support would give Kiev a, quote, stronger hand at the table. Ukraine's foreign minister, Andriy Sybiha, urged allies for greater solidarity, emphasizing the need to maintain Ukraine's energy production amid escalating challenges. Ukraine also seeks additional air defense systems from NATO countries.
Ukraine is entering another crucial winter, and Russia's aggression shows no sign of abating. Just the opposite. Putin is ramping up his rhetoric and reckless actions. He is using Ukraine as a testing ground for experimental missiles and is deploying North Korean soldiers in this illegal war. But we will all need to do more, especially now. The stronger our military support to Ukraine is now, the stronger their hand will be at the negotiating table. And the sooner we can end Russian aggression once and for all in Ukraine.
And we are speaking about urgent supply of at least 20 additional systems, type Hawks, NASAMS or IRIS-T, and it will help us to avoid blackout. And we understand that Russians, they try to deprive us to produce energy. That's why we need also more support and more solidarity in preventing of achieving of this situation.
The French government is on the verge of collapse after Prime Minister Michel Barnier bypassed Parliament to pass the Social Security budget. As a no-confidence vote looks likely tomorrow, far-right party French Patriots also called for a protest against President Emmanuel Macron this weekend.
Prime Minister Michel Barnier invoked Article 49.3 to pass the 2025 Social Security budget without a parliamentary vote, sparking no-confidence motions from both the far-right National Rally and the left-wing New Popular Front. The budget aims to reduce France's deficit by slashing 40 billion euros in spending and 20 billion euros in tax increases. However, he tried to push it through without the support of the other parties. National Rally lawmakers and the left combined have enough votes to topple Barnier and leader Marine Le Pen has confirmed her party would vote for the left-wing coalition's no-confidence bill on top of their own bill. If the no-confidence vote doesn't indeed go through on Wednesday, Barnier would have to tender his resignation. But President Emmanuel Macron may ask him and his government to stay on in a caretaker role while he seeks a new prime minister. This would mark only the second time a French government has been ousted since 1958 and the first since 1962. The country's political future remains uncertain, with potential outcomes including the formation of a new government or the establishment of a technocratic interim leadership.
Our Paris correspondent Ross Cullen has more on these developments.
The French Prime Minister will be facing no confidence votes on Wednesday. His position now here in Paris is particularly perilous because he forced legislation through Parliament. He pushed the budget bill through Parliament, bypassing MPs, not giving them a vote. It did mean that you can get your legislation through Parliament, but if you do that in France, it does open yourself up to the possibility of facing no confidence votes, and that's exactly what's going to happen here in France on Wednesday. The left-wing opposition and the far-right opposition have both submitted motions of no confidence in the French Prime Minister. Those votes will take place on Wednesday evening local time, and if Michel Barnier does lose one of those no confidence votes, he will resign. He will submit a letter of resignation to the French president, who can then choose to reappoint Michel Barnier or can look for someone else. Bear in mind, it did take the French president weeks and weeks over the summer after inconclusive election results in July to finally choose Michel Barnier to be the French Prime Minister, but he leads a minority government, has come under extreme pressure with this budget legislation for 2025 and finally chose to use executive powers to push that legislation through, but now faces these no confidence votes. If he were to lose one of those votes on Wednesday, he would become the shortest serving French Prime Minister in modern history, and it would be the first time that a government has been brought down by the opposition since 1962. Ross Cullen for AnewZ in Paris.
Thank you, Ross. Meantime, rebels in Syria claim to have seized Aleppo International Airport, dealing a big blow to the government forces. The war in Syria intensified in the last week as anti-government fighters pushed to solidify their positions in various parts of the country. Earlier, the government's forces lost control over Tel Rifat, adjacent to Aleppo. Meantime, United Nations Secretary General's office says that the UN chief calls for an immediate end to hostilities in northwestern Syria and a return to a UN-brokered political process. The Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project, or OCCRP, is known for its high-profile investigations, including the Panama Papers. However, recent reports by Mediapart and other sources raise questions about its funding and independence.
According to Mediapart, OCCRP operates with an annual budget of 20 million euros, employing 200 people. Over the past decade, it received 52% of its funding, totaling $47 million from the US government. Additionally, $15.2 million came from the EU and other European governments, while $24.9 million was provided by individuals and private foundations. Mediapart also reports that OCCRP received $2.2 million from the US State Department between 2015 and 2019 for a project titled Balancing the Russian Media Space. Another $1.7 million was allocated from 2019 to 2023 for strengthening investigative journalism in Eurasia, focusing on regions such as Russia, China, and Central Asia. The US Department of State provided $2.3 million for a project in Malta and Cyprus to expose corruption and enhance investigative journalism, as detailed in federal funding records. This program was renewed in September 2023 with an additional $1.3 million. These regions are widely known for attracting Russian oligarchs, according to the report. OCCRP participated in the Cyprus confidential investigation coordinated by the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists. The investigation focused on alleged financial misconduct and sanctions breach in Cyprus. On 14 November 2023, Cyprus announced official investigations into claims of sanctions violations, with the findings published in collaboration with OCCRP. 3 weeks later, teams from the FBI and FENSIN arrived in Cyprus to assist, according to official statements. Mediapart's investigation includes statements from OCCRP founder Drew Sullivan, who acknowledged that OCCRP avoids reporting on US-related issues due to restrictions tied to funding from the US government and the Open Society Foundations. USAID reportedly refers to OCCRP as a partner organization and has oversight over projects and editorial leadership as outlined in public records. According to the same reports, several journalists who contributed to uncovering these connections have alleged threats from the OCCRP's leadership. These claims have been reported by Mediapart and other investigative outlets. The questions raised by these findings underscore the complex relationship between investigative organizations and their funding sources. As these revelations continue to unfold, OCCRP's role in global journalism remains a point of intense debate.
U.S. President Joe Biden is set to visit the Museum of Slavery in Angola, this after a meeting with the country's president, João Lourenço, on the second day of his 3-day visit to the sub-Saharan country. This is a first by a sitting U.S. president. Biden is expected to give a speech addressing America's enslavement history. His visit to Angola is focused largely on the Libido Corridor Railway redevelopment in Zambia, Congo, and Angola, for which the U.S. committed $3 billion. The railway was previously renovated by the Chinese government in a rail for oil deal worth $2 billion. The railway is meant to connect cobalt, lithium, and copper mines in Congo and Zambia to the Angolan port of Libido on the Atlantic Ocean. Once completed, the corridor will help transport minerals used in batteries for electric vehicles, electronic devices, and clean energy technologies to Europe and the U.S. Once a key transit center for the slave trade on the western coast of Africa, the island of Gorée now stands as a symbol of freedom. Yet, its vibrant streets and lush landscapes still conceal a very dark and conflicted history.
The island of Gorée, just off the coast of Senegal, looks like a paradise with its lush landscapes touched by the deep blue of the Atlantic. But beneath its beauty lies a dark history of slavery that is impossible to forget. Today, it stands not only as the reminder of that history, but as a symbol of fight for freedom. Once a key transit point in the transatlantic slave trade, Gorée was occupied by Portugal, the Netherlands, Britain, and France over the centuries. Statistics show that at least 20 million men, women, and children passed through its shores, with 5 million dying on these islands. The island became a gateway where millions were transported to forced labor and suffering.
But if you try to compare all West African coasts, you can see from Gorée we had the coast more closer to America. And the second reason, as an island, when they brought captives, they couldn't escape. Any European nations based here used to build up a kind of fortification. It was the French one, yeah. And they have all this to defend the island. It was so strategical because from Gorée, that must help them to make a control all along of the West African coast.
Today, Gorée stands as a powerful symbol of the fight for freedom. Each year, on December 2nd, the world reflects on this history on the International Day for the Abolition of Slavery.
And now back to regional news. Tensions remain high in Georgia after days of protests against the government. Prime Minister Irakli Kobakhidze says an attempt to stage a revolution has failed. The Prime Minister addressed the media following violent protests in Tbilisi over the government's decision to delay EU accession talks to 2028. Clashes between protesters and riot police left dozens injured and over 20 people were arrested. Kobakhidze compared the unrest to Ukraine's 2014 Maidan uprising, calling for calm and assuring peace. He also said legal action against protest organizers would be handled by prosecutors.
So the attempt to organize the Maidan in Georgia is already over. I would call everybody to keep quiet, let's say, and to keep peace in this country. So we are responsible for that. I can assure everybody that there will be peace in this country.
In Riyadh, COP16 started off with a strong need for political and financial commitments to combat the growing threat of drought. Today, ministerial discussions focused on unlocking public and private finance to address the $10 trillion annual cost of land degradation. AnewZ correspondent Narchachak Jahangirli brings the latest from the ground.
In the second day of COP16 at Riyadh, the morale is very high as we already hear some promising numbers from the authorities. Besides the plenary meeting, a lot of side events and official bilateral meetings are taking place behind the closed doors. Of course, the land restoration, desertification and drought resilience are the center of this land conference at Saudi Arabia. Yesterday was quite fruitful in terms of negotiations as the Minister of Environment, Water and Agriculture of Saudi Arabia, also President of COP16, Abdulrahman Al-Fadiyeh, announced new initiative by the kingdom, and it is a Global Drought Resilience Partnership Initiative. Abdulrahman Al-Fadiyeh announced $150 million support by the Saudi Arabia to this initiative, and he called upon the governments to support and pledge to the project. Also, it is estimated that this initiative will cover up to 80 countries which suffers from land degradation. But also we can hear some announcements and pledges from the other developed countries. For example, EU is very eager. The Commissioner of EU on Environment and Water Resilience, Jessica Roswell, which is newly appointed to this post, she announced about the contribution of the EU to drought resilience and land degradation talks. She said that the organization is committed to support all the initiatives regarding these negotiations here at Riyadh. Also today, the second day of COP16, One Water Summit is going to take place, and it is very promising summit indeed, and we expect a lot of pledges, contributions and announcements from this summit. But also COP16 Riyadh is going to announce international drought resilience platform, which will be powered by AI data, and this is going to be the first of its kind. The platform going to provide a single portal from which managers and experts can analyze and visualize all the data regarding drought resilience, and they may come with the important solutions. The conference is still going on, and the theme is Our Land, Our Future, so we are really hopeful, and these are all the information from now.
That's our Narchachak Jahangirli reporting on the latest from COP16 in Riyadh. Still at the conference, Azerbaijan is elected as the chair of the Central and Eastern Europe Regional Group for a 2-year term within the framework of the mission. The group also includes 15 countries from Eastern and Central Europe. Within this group, priority areas have been identified, including strengthening regional activities, enhancing knowledge, and ecological agriculture. Azerbaijan became a member of the COP16 Bureau as well. That represents 12 regions and oversees the implementation of COP decisions, as well as organizing the work for future COP meetings. The United Nations is sounding the alarm on droughts and says it costs the world over $300 billion every year.
At the COP16 conference in Riyadh, the UN Convention to Combat Desertification revealed a staggering warning. By 2025, drought could affect 75% of the global population, driven largely by environmental damage. The report calls for urgent investment, $1 billion daily from 2025 to 2030, in solutions like reforestation and water conservation. UN Convention to Combat Desertification Executive Secretary Ibrahim Tiav called for significantly increasing investments in land restoration to protect lives and livelihoods. The message is clear: tackling drought is critical to saving both economies and communities.
Europe's most expensive Christmas tree is now on display in Munich, Germany. Made entirely of gold coins, the dazzling creation is turning heads with its incredible value.
At Munich's Gold House, this one-of-a-kind Christmas tree is made from over 2,000 Vienna Philharmonic gold coins, valued at over 5.2 million euros. The star on top is a 20-ounce coin, adding even more sparkle to the display.
This year, we simply wanted to display a very special Christmas tree here at Gold House. It consists of 2024 1-ounce Vienna Philharmonic gold coins. And in view of the high gold prices, it also has a very considerable value, namely over 5.2 million euros. And the Vienna Philharmonic coin is one of the most popular and also one of the best-selling gold investment coins here at Gold House.
Benjamin Summer, spokesperson for Pro Aurum, says this tree celebrates the season while highlighting the value of gold. He notes that gold remains a popular choice for long-term asset protection, even as prices rise sharply.
Due to geopolitical tensions and wars around the world, many central banks are very much on the buying side at the moment. Physical demand for gold, especially from Asian central banks, is very, very high. In addition, major investors are also fueling demand and buying gold in the form of gold exchange-traded funds, and that influences the price. This year in particular, these were the two factors that caused the gold price to rise.
While the individual coins are for sale, the tree itself is not. Visitors are flocking to see this golden masterpiece, a true symbol of luxury this holiday season.
That's all from us. Thank you so much for watching AnewZ. Please stay up to date by visiting our website, anews.tv. Bye for now.